Agency is very proud through its partnership project, like the one with the satellite manufacturer Airbus, to support the space industry in Europe to foster innovation and succeed in the highly competitive global telecommunication market. 8 satellites have already been sold by Airbus, with the option for a 9th. Thanks to the European Space Agency Eurostar NEO partnership project, the satellite will be used in high-speed internet connection and advanced mobility communication, as well as television broadcasting. Investing in space today creates job and prosperity in Europe and improve life on Earth.
Now that we know a little more about the mission tonight, let's turn our attention to the rocket there on your screen. That's a live view of our Falcon 9 rocket set to launch Eutelsat's Hotbird 13F satellite from Slick 40. Starting at the bottom of the rocket,
Stage 1 fuel load complete.
So that was just a call out indicating that the fuel loading on stage 1 is complete. Now, starting at the bottom of the rocket, we have our 9 M1D engines connected to the first stage, also the largest part of our rocket. These 9 engines help accelerate the vehicle through the thickest part of the Earth's atmosphere and into space. Our first stage, also referred to as the booster, is flying for the 3rd time tonight, having previously supported a Starlink mission and CRS-24, a cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. Above the first stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, and that ignites after the first stage separates. The second stage is what will carry the Eutelsat Hotbird 13F satellite into orbit. And at the very top of the rocket, you'll see a large barrel structure with the pointed nose on top of the second stage. That's our payload fairing. The Eutelsat Hotbird 13F satellite is currently safely enclosed inside that 17-foot diameter fairing. The fairing is made up of 2 carbon composite halves and protects satellites on their way to orbit and will be jettisoned or separated around 3 minutes into flight. The fairing halves that make up the fairing that we are using today are both flying for the 4th time on this mission, with liftoff currently at just under 5 minutes from now. We're waiting for the retraction of the TE or transporter
Thanks, pressing for strong back retract.
And there we just heard that the tanks are pressing up, increasing the pressure in preparation for that strong back retraction. Now, in preparation for that, those TE clamps just under the fairing will begin to open, and the TE will slightly pull away from the rocket. At T0, the ground hydraulic systems will actually pull the TE even further away from Falcon 9 as it lifts off. So we're standing by for those clamp arms to begin to open. And it looks like those arms have begun to open. And they are now in their fully opened position. Now, the first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the TE, but the structure is actually hinged and will retract away, as we just heard. You can see it there in preparation for launch. You also hear it referred to as the strong back by our launch team. Now, at this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Both the first and second stages are underway with their LOX load. Kerosene loading is complete on both stages, but that first stage will wrap up here in just about 20 seconds, and the second stage will wrap up its LOX load at T-minus 2 minutes. The white clouds that we're seeing a little bit around the vehicle is actually the chilled gas that sits above the liquid oxygen tank liquid surface inside the tank.
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
All right, there's that call indicating that that liquid oxygen is now fully loaded onto stage 1. That gaseous chilled gas above the LOX tank liquid surface, we vent that overboard to maintain the internal tank pressure as needed. So the next call out that we'll hear at T-minus 2 minutes is that the second stage LOX load is complete. And then after that, at T-minus 60 seconds, we'll hear the call out that Falcon 9 is in startup. That means the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. And then just inside T-minus 2 seconds, we'll light those 9 Merlin 1D engines for liftoff. The Hotbird 13F satellite continues to be healthy. Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. Weather is looking great and the range is green, ready to support launch. And we're standing by for completion of LOX load on the second stage.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
And there's that call out indicating now that Falcon 9 is completely loaded with all of its liquid propellants, liquid kerosene, and liquid oxygen. The venting that we see from the vehicle, as I mentioned before, totally normal. So it's that gaseous...
Gas launch closeout.
All right, the next call out that we'll hear is that Falcon 9 is in startup. We'll hear that at T-minus 1 minute. And at that point in time, both the first and second stages will begin to pressurize for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
All right, there's that call out indicating the autonomous flight computers have taken control of the launch countdown.
Go for launch.
And there was our final go for launch from SpaceX launch director. So at this point in time, as we approach T-minus 35 seconds, all systems are go for launch of Falcon 9 with Eutelsat's Hotbird 13F
T-minus 30
payload.
seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power and ignition. Lift off the Falcon 9. Go Hotbird, go Falcon. Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, carrying the Eutelsat Hotbird 13F satellite.
Nominal.
During ascent, the M1D engines will actually swivel and help steer Falcon 9. This is known as gimbal. The rocket autonomously tilts the engines just a few degrees, and this
Falcon 9 is
gimbling
supersonic.
allows the vehicle to perform a gravity turn, which is when we go vertical as well as horizontal. So we're still going up, but now we're also heading horizontally away from the launch pad.
Max Q.
And there we heard the call out for maximum aerodynamic pressure. So now we'll throttle those 9 M1D engines back up. In about a minute, we'll have 3 events occurring in quick succession. The first will be main engine cutoff, or MECO, as it's seen there on the timeline at the bottom of your screen. MECO will be followed immediately by stage separation, which, as the name indicates, the first stage and second stage will separate. And then the second engine, that Merlin vacuum engine, will ignite for SES 1, or second engine start 1. Everything continues to look nominal for the first stage. It's a great view of the M1D exhaust plume. Stand standing by for main engine cutoff.
Eco. Stage separation confirmed.
And there you can see
Ignition.
that MVAC has ignited, that nozzle turning orange and white. Those three events happening rapidly. The first stage there on the left-hand side of your screen and the right-hand side for the second
Both
stage.
vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
Next major event is fairing separation, occurring in about 10 seconds. You can see the Space Coast in the distance background of the left-hand side of the screen.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there's our first look at the Eutelsat Hotbird 13F payload. Now, those fairing halves that we just separated, we will be attempting to retrieve them again once they fall back to planet Earth. We'll be using our recovery ship Doug to do so.
Acquisition signal Bermuda.
We're at T+4 minutes into tonight's mission, and we're currently in the first of two planned MVAC burns prior to satellite deployment. The next event, first stage entry burn, will occur at about T+6.5 minutes, and you should be able to see it on your screen. For the entry burn, we'll relight three M1D engines, starting with the center one, engine 9, followed shortly thereafter by E1 and E5, which are two of the 8 radial engines. That burn is the first of two planned burns and will slow the vehicle down as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. Now, stage 1 has to slow down to reduce re-entry forces, which helps us to recover and reuse it. Now, during that entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing those Merlin engines, as I mentioned, but it's still moving rapidly. This causes the vehicle to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, also called the rocket's plume. As such, a thin layer of soot from Falcon 9's carbon-based fuel, kerosene, is deposited on the exterior vehicle surface.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Now, for those that might not be familiar with why we land our rockets, reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, which enables more investments in critical scientific research. The Falcon 9 first stage that's supporting today's mission will perform this entry burn for the third time. As I mentioned earlier, it previously supported a Starlink mission as well as a cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station, CRS-24. So we're expecting that entry burn to begin in under 10 seconds.
Stage 1 FTSO safe. Stage 1 entry burn startup.
So there on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see those 3 M1D engines have relit, the center engine and 2 radial engines. We expect this to last for another 10 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
All right, we heard the call out that stage 1 entry burn has concluded. As I mentioned, that is the first of 2 burns that the first stage will perform. Everything continues to look nominal for the second stage there on your screen.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Good indication there that everything is on track. for both the first and second stage. In about 30 seconds, we'll have the next milestone coming up. That's when we will shut down our MVAC engine, or Merlin vacuum engine, there on your screen on the second stage. And that will be followed very quickly by our landing burn.
Stage 1 transonic.
And there we just heard that the first stage is traveling near the speed of sound.
Stage 2 FTSO saved.
Standing by for second engine cutoff 1.
MVAC shutdown.
All right, we started to see that the MVAC nozzle was losing that bright white glow, indicating we had a second engine cutoff. And there on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see that the first stage has begun the landing burn.
Nominal parking orbit.
Heard good orbital insertion there for the second stage.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there you have it. That landing marks SpaceX's 147th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including first stage landings for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Now, the mission isn't over just yet. The second stage is now embarking on its first coast phase. After the coast phase, we'll light that MVAC engine for a second time around T plus 29 minutes. So hang tight. We'll see you back here in about 20 minutes. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy some late night space tunes.
Expected loss of signal, keep.
They just are restless right now.
needed to deploy the satellite. You can see that orange glow beginning to develop again on the MVAC nozzle. About halfway through this second stage burn. Another 15 seconds remaining in this second engine burn.
MVAC shutdown.
And there we heard call out that we had good shutdown of that second engine start, or excuse me, for that second engine cutoff.
Nominal deploy orbit.
All right, there we just heard confirmation that we were able to place it in a good orbit. Now, for those of you that might have only just recently joined us, we had a successful liftoff, as well as a successful first stage landing and two second stage burns, with the second one just concluding there moments ago. As a reminder, today's launch is for our customer Eutelsat, and we're sending their Hotbird 13F satellite into space.
And acquisition signal HPK.
This evening's launch marked SpaceX's 185th overall mission, as well as our 99th launch from Space Launch Complex 40, our 140th Falcon 9 first stage landing, and our 40th landing on our drone ship. Just read the instructions.
This deployment's going to be cool.
So at this point in time, everything is looking good for the second stage. We have completed the 2 burns for that MVAC engine, and that's a view there of the Hotbird 13F satellite. It is still attached to the second stage. We're currently in a smaller coast phase now that that second engine has been cut off for the second time. Again, that concludes the second and final burn that the MVAC engine will execute. There we can see that Hotbird 13F satellite still attached to Falcon 9's second stage and is set to deploy in just under 3.5 minutes. Now, while we wait on that deployment, here's some more information about Hotbird 13F from the satellite manufacturer Airbus.
Hotbird 13F is the first satellite based on the new Airbus Eurostar Neo platform.
I would like to celebrate through this Hotbird 13F launch our long relationship with Eutelsat that is going to fly our first Eurostar Neo, as they have already flown our first Eurostar 3000, our first Eurostar 3000 full electrical.
The collaboration with Airbus is a very long-term partnership. Airbus has built for us the satellite Hotbird 13F, which is going to replace an aging satellite at 13 degrees east, which is a key position for the Eutelsat group.
Hotbird 13F enhances Eutelsat's ability to serve its 135 million customers across Europe, Northern Africa, and the Middle East.
I would like also to thank the EDA and all the national agencies for their support for the development. It's already another 7 satellites which are under construction. Thanks to that, it's all the suppliers and partners of Europe that are involved in those programs.
Hotbird 13F and 13G both have payloads of more than 2 tons, but a launch mass of only 4,500 kilograms. With a spacecraft power of 22 kilowatts, they are paving the way to a new era of spacecraft.
We're absolutely thrilled to see this innovative platforms, which is the Eurostar Neo, which will fly for the first time, being operated soon by the Eutelsat fleet.
Welcome to the age of Eurostar Neo.
To echo some of the topics covered in that video, Eutelsat Hotbird 13F is the first of 2 satellites to be placed at Eutelsat's flagship 13-degree east position to replace 3 existing satellites. With a fleet of 36 satellites, located in geostationary orbit from 139 degrees west to 174 degrees east, Eutelsat's high-performance satellites serve a solid client base of broadcasters, telecom operators, aviation and maritime companies, and government agencies from across the globe. Hotbird 13F is the first satellite based on the electrical propulsion Eurostar Neo platform, fostering innovation and competitiveness in the European space industry. Now, as far as the mission, we had an on-time liftoff at 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time, followed by successful ascent, stage separation, first stage landing, and 2 second stage engine burns. As a reminder, Eutelsat is a world-leading satellite operator in a footprint covering Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and the Americas.
Payload separation confirmed.
Cool.
And there you see it on your screen.
Good for them.
Payload separation confirmed for the Hotbird 13F payload. And with confirmation of successful payload deploy, we'll go ahead and end our launch webcast for tonight. All of us here at SpaceX want to give a big thank you to our customer Eutelsat for entrusting us with today's mission. We also want to give a shout out to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's mission. As I mentioned earlier, today's launch concludes our 185th overall mission to date and 47th launch this year. Thanks to all of our viewers tuning in, and thank you for your continued support. Have a good night,
Acquisition signal Maldives.
and we'll see you soon.
Here's just a little bit of Orion and the moon. This does pick up quite a few stars. I want to do something here. Let's take the exposure down just a hair. Let's take it down just a little bit more. take down the iOS. Yeah, let's bump this up a little bit. We will be having the Orion. It's on, what is it, the 20th and the 21st? It's like 5 days from now, so don't forget that. Let's see, what do I got going here? Let me bring this down just a hair. Let's bring it down just a little bit more. That's Orion right in the center there. And that is where the next meteor shower is going to be in about 5 days. Let me boost this up a little bit and see what happens. Let's take the iOS out down just a tad. Let's take the exposure up just a tad too. Let's see if I can get rid of that. I'm just kind of testing out what I should use for exposure for the it's not too bad. Let's take this down just a little bit more. Now, of course, we're losing a lot of the faint stars, but these meteors are going to be pretty well decent. Let me bring this up here, see what happens. Of course, the moon is not going to be there, so yeah, the gradient for the Orion, it's are, let me see here. It's the top left. I guess that would be called the shoulder of Orion, that bright star there. You go to the left and there's like a little star right there. And if you go to the left twice that distance, there's two faint stars. That's pretty much where the radiant for the meteor shower is. So let's we're gonna call tonight. We had two delays, about an hour and a half each. So I should be in bed. It's 2 o'clock in the morning here. So let's call it a night.